Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Suzie Leighton. I am one of the directors of the Culture Capital Exchange, and along with my co-director, Evelyn Wilson, we're going to be running the first part of this afternoon. But we were founded back in 2005 through something called the Higher Innovation Education Fund, which is education research funding, and along the lines of this novel idea that it might be nice for university research and the arts and cultural organisations to collaborate in some sort of systematic way around research. And of course that had always, happened ubiquitously on an individual level, but this was really the first time that it was looked at an institutional level by the university sector. So we work very much, as I've said, between the higher education system and the arts and creative sectors. We're all about developing partnerships and brokerage, overcoming barriers to collaboration. We, as well as our day-to-day work with our membership, we have 11 London members, and we're working on a pilot partnership with 16 out of London universities. We also run some quite big projects, so we've recently delivered the Knowledge Exchange programme for something called Creative Works London, which was a national knowledge exchange hub funded by the Arts and Humanities Research Council to really look at how academic researchers and creative and cultural organisations can work together to not only produce excellent research, but to really strengthen businesses and practices. And we're just coming to the end of a 2-year pilot project called The Exchange, which has been supported by the Higher Education Funding Council for England and the Arts Council, which has supported 30 collaborative exchange projects around the country, working with very early career researchers and very small organisations and micro businesses, the kind of organisation or individuals that might find it quite difficult to penetrate a big organisation like a university, to look at how we can remove some of those barriers to collaboration. So we're very much brokers, facilitators, and we come from a place where actually the arts and creative industries, we firmly believe, have as much to offer academia as vice versa. And what we're not interested in is a process or an ethos which thinks that all the knowledge and learning is in the academy. We firmly believe that things need to be an equal exchange and collaboration to be really productive, and that benefits all of us. So I'm just going to hand over to my co-director, Evelyn.
As I think we've said, and as I'm sure you probably know, this programme is actually one of 4 programmes that's been funded by the Arts Council under the Building Resilience banner. And a wee bit later on, after the break, we're going to talk in some more depth really about all the other 3 programmes. But my job now this afternoon is just to say a little bit really about the programme that we are running here, that we will run with our colleagues here at CAS, our colleagues at Manchester, and with everybody in the sector. We are also really delighted to be working very much in partnership with, in particular, Crafts Council, and it's really brilliant that Rosie is here, and also Creative England through this process. And this week really is the start, I think, for us of a lot of that work. As it says on our slides just behind me, it's a 2-year programme. Well, in fact, really, the programme itself will start in September and run through to about March 19. And the mantra, if you like, really, what's running at the DNA of this programme is the notion of actually how we might think about making the most of our creative assets and our intellectual property in the arts and cultural sector. It's something that people do incredibly well. But as we know, there are always yet more barriers to be overcome all the time, it feels. So as I've said, really, the ethos we very much hope over this coming period will be to co-design, to learn from each other, and to really genuinely collaborate to innovate and to test and reflect and explore markets in all their multiplicity of meanings. So what we're thinking is, and again, we might decide something very different by the end of the day, but our thoughts right now at 2:20 are that we will have 3 residentials through this next period, one in September this year, one in, I can't remember all the dates off the top of my head, they're in the guidelines, one in March and the final one the next September 18. And that in between those residentials then there will be that time for people depending on what people's needs are. So this might be one-on-one, it might be smaller groups of people from the bigger group coming together to engage in mentoring or coaching or co-design or sharing or walking and whatever methods of learning that we feel might be appropriate to the contexts and to the needs. Who is a programme for? Well, again, as I think we've said in the blurb so far, it is really for senior executive, senior artistic staff or other personnel, board directors and so on from arts and cultural organisations. You don't have to be an NPO to apply, but obviously you can apply if you're an NPO too. And also for Arts Council accredited museums and libraries, and similarly Arts Council accredited music education hubs. One of the things that I was looking at this morning was this fantastic short essay. It was about Joseph Beuys. It was about a piece of work that he made for Documenta back in 1982. And it was called 7,000 Oaks. And I haven't got my quote here, but what he really, really wanted to do, what he profoundly wanted to do, was to think about the arts as a social structure. And he said, and he also, I think very interestingly, was very engaged in environmental politics, as I'm sure many of you here know in this room. But I think, you know, he said that actually what he wanted to do was to go outside, to be outside, that his work was about the bigger picture. The quote is so much more beautiful than I'm going to remember, but I think that's really important for us here today. And on the subject of resilience and the bigger picture and surviving, actually, I'm very pleased to introduce our next speaker, who, Jonathan Pethbridge, are you in the room? You are in the room, fantastic. Who's going to talk to us about his experience. So over to you now. Thank you very much.